We'll get started with the prayers. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye Nishtaprayeshu Abhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Nashta Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namah Om Ajnanandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam karoti vachalam Pangum langayate girim Yadkripātamaham vande Shri Gurum Dīnatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Krishna Chaitanyam Ishwaram Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Thank you all so much for joining us today. So we are continuing from Canto 1, Chapter 5, and it's going to be verse number 28 onwards. So anyone remembers what was really discussed in the previous class? Just in 2-3 sentences, if anyone can tell, what was Narada Muni telling in the to Vyasadev in the previous session? Yes, Saudhamini.
Hare Krishna Mataji. In the previous session, Mataji was discussing when Narada Muni was narrating his previous life and how he got the mercy of the sadhus. So all the stages of bhakti were discussed, how in all verses, step by step, the stages of bhakti were discussed, starting with Satam Kripa, then Mahat Seva, so Guru Padashray, all those were discussed, Mataji.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So in the previous session, Mataji was reading from verses 23 onwards, and she was discussing about Narada's previous life. How Narada Muni in the previous millennium, he was born as the son of a maidservant. And before that, of course, he had his birth as a Gandharva by the name of Barhana. And because of an offense, he had to take birth as the son of a maidservant. And by great fortune, he had the association of the Bhakti Vedantas, right? So the Bhakti Vedantas, what did they do? They gave him the association. And Narada Muni, by nature, he was a very nice boy. He was not interested in childish sports. He didn't speak much, and he was not very naughty or talkative, right? So because of that, it was easy. I mean, his interest was to take their association. And not only that, with their permission, he once took their remnants. So taking remnants of a Vaishnava is extremely potent. And besides taking remnants, what else did he do? He was hearing Harikatha very attentively. So he was hearing Harikatha very attentively with Asakti. And he developed this, he came to the level of Bhav, right? He loved Krishna, he developed Bhav for Krishna. And then his meditation on the Lord became uninterrupted, and he fixed his mind on the Supreme Lord. So that's what we have seen till verse number 27. Now, in verse number 28, we will see how he comes to the point of love of God, and Rajoguna and Tamoguna actually vanish. Okay, so this is the last stage that is being described here in this chapter. So if you connect back to chapter 2 of Canto 1, you see all the 14 stages. But here, two stages are not experienced. What are the final two stages? It is Darshanam and Harir Madhurya Anubhavam. Those two stages are not experienced right here, but later in the chapter, in the next chapter, when Vyasadeva asks him to speak further about his experience, that is when he tells that how those two stages were also experienced by him. But here today, with verse number 28, we will see how Narada Muni went through all these different stages up till the point of love of God, which is called as Prema. Okay, so verse number 28. I will share screen and we'll get started. इत्थं शरत्प्रावृषिकावृतु हरेर्वृष्णवन्तो मे अनुत्सवं यशो अमलम् सङ्कीर्त्यमानं मुनिभिर्महात्मभिर्भक्ति प्रवृत्तात्मरजस्तमोपः. So, Ittam Sharat Pravrishikau. So, two seasons is mentioned. One is Sharat. Sharat is the autumn season. And the other he mentions is Pravrishikau. So, Pravrishika, or because it's two seasons, au is added. Sharat Pravrishikau. So, these two seasons actually are the autumn and the rainy season. And it is nothing but the Chaturmas, the 4 months. We call it the 4 months of the rainy season. Okay, so during the Chaturmas time, what was he doing? He was hearing Vishrinvantaha, that is, he was giving oral reception to what he was hearing, the glories of the unadulterated glories of the Supreme Lord that was chanted by the great Munis. So he gave oral reception to the Yasha Amalam. Yasha Amalam means the unadulterated glories. Now, there is a very important adjective that is used here, which is anusavam. Anusavam means constantly. Okay, constantly hearing. It's not that he has a spur of interest. He's hearing one day and then the rest of the days is gone. Like how we say, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Every day one must hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. So like that constantly. What did he do? He heard the glories of the Lord that was sung, Sankirtayamanam, sung by whom? By these great rishis, by these great munis who are the Bhakti Vedantas. So they were singing this glories of the Supreme Lord, and Narada Muni gave oral reception. And these great Munibhi, they were full of bhakti. Okay, bhakti. Bhakti was the core element in their Sankirtana, in their Harikatha, in whatever they were talking about Krishna. That is why bhakti started to flow in the heart of Narada Muni. Okay, bhakti pravritatma rajastamopaha. So as that bhakti started flowing, we do this water experiment. You have dyed water, like you put some ink, some dye in water, and then you take it in front of the tap. And you run water into the cup that is full of colored water. We do this experiment for chanting of the holy names. So as the water keeps running into that colored water, eventually the water becomes completely clear. Why? Because all the fresh water that is coming in drains out, or rather lets the colored water to overflow, and the cup is filled with clear water. So with children, we do this experiment to show how when you chant, that fresh water is like chanting. So when you chant, the dirt within the heart is removed. That is the concept that we try to teach. So similarly, when there is a flow flow of bhakti. How is that bhakti coming? It's coming, of course, from the bhakti in the hearts of the Bhakti Vedantas. So from there is a transfer of bhakti into the heart of Narada Muni. And as Narada is developing this bhakti, as bhakti is overflowing in his heart, then the impurities, the color that is there inside, which is the black color and the red color of Rajas and Tamas, those are completely removed. They vanish. They actually overflow and they get out. And his heart is only filled with good devotion. Okay, so let's see the translation. It says, thus, during the two seasons, the rainy season and the autumn, which is actually the Chaturmas, I had the opportunity to hear these great-souled sages constantly chant the unadulterated glories of Lord Hari. As the flow of my devotional service began, the coverings of the mode of passion and ignorance vanished. It's a very natural process. So everybody must have had this experience. When we hear Harikatha, at least for that moment, for that half an hour, 1 hour, whatever it is, we are transported to a different level. At least at that time, the ignorance and passion is somewhat muted, if not fully vanished. At least it is somewhat quietened, our ignorance and passion, and we are absorbed in Harikatha. So that is what happened with Narada Muni. It was just not quietened or subsided, but it really vanished because the intensity with which we hear matters a lot. So Prabhupada, in the purport, he says, transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord is a natural inclination for every being. So we all, Jive Raswarupai, Krishnera Nityadas, Mama Ivamsho Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, we are all parts and parcels of Krishna. And to love Krishna is a natural propensity that is there in our heart. Okay, this propensity is in this material world somewhat dormant. It has to be awakened. Why is it dormant? It is dormant because of the association of material nature. Material nature is made up of the modes of passion and ignorance. And of course, goodness is also there. But then this passion and ignorance, they make a covering in our hearts and we become forgetful of Krishna. Though we have a natural inclination to love Krishna because of the overwhelming covering of the modes of passion and ignorance since time immemorial. We don't know when. Since then, since time immemorial, we have been covered. And because of that covering, we are not having natural spontaneous love for Krishna. But then how do we develop it? By the grace of the Lord and the great soul devotees of the Lord. If a devotee becomes fortunate enough to associate with such unadulterated devotees, then this flow of devotion gets transferred from their heart to our heart, and there is a flow of devotion just like the flow of a river. And just like how the river flows on until it reaches the sea, similarly, this pure devotion that we have acquired, it flows with the help of the association of these pure devotees till we reach the ultimate goal of love of God. And as it is flowing, what is happening? This Rajoguna and Tamoguna is getting washed out. And such flow of devotional service till we reach the destination, which is love of God, it goes on flowing. Such flow of devotional service cannot be stopped. Actually, it only increases more and more without limitation. Even after we go to the spiritual world, there is no question of cessation. So it continues, it just keeps on flowing. And is there an end? There is no end. Spiritual mathematics is that love for God just keeps increasing without any limitation. There is no starting ending point. Maybe there is a starting point at some point, but then there is absolutely no ending point. There is no limit. So this flow of devotion is so potent that the onlooker I mean, a person who's experiencing it is obviously benefited. But then just an onlooker can also get liberated from the moods of passion and ignorance. So if one devotee is hearing from another pure devotee and his anarthas are getting washed off, then another person associating with this devotee whose anarthas are getting washed off is also getting benefited. So everyone around him is also benefited. So like this, a living entity, he becomes liberated and he's able to get situated in his original position. How is he able to get situated in the original position? Just by giving oral reception, just by hearing the constant chanting of the unadulterated glories of Lord Hari. Say, this glories of Lord Hari is unadulterated. When you hear the unadulterated glories of Lord Hari, Yasha Amalam. Amala means without mala. Mala means dirt. Okay. So the Lord's glories are Amalam. Now, when you hear the unadulterated glories of Lord Hari, then the adulteration in our heart. What is the adulteration in our heart? The Rajoguna and the Tamoguna. So the adulteration in our heart vanishes because the Lord's glories are unadulterated. So when you come in contact with something pure, automatically, just like we say the sun, when sunshine is there, everything is purified. Because the sun is very pure, sunlight is very pure. So it purifies everything, even a urinal that it comes in contact with. This is what Prabhupada says. So when we are in contact with the unadulterated glories of the Lord, then all the adulteration in our heart gets washed away. Yes, Bimal Prabhu.
Mataji, Hare Krishna. I have one question, Mataji. I know we were talking about Narad Muni explaining all this of his previous millennium, right? So, but they have not given us the point of reference, what they were reading and understanding and what they were discussing Vedantis here to understand how Narad Muni basically, was so much, went into devotional service, right? That is not mentioned here. Mataji, or something which I'm missing here.
So we will see the mention now, 29.
Okay, okay.
Okay, 29 and 30, what knowledge they bestowed. See, of course, the details of Bhakti is not mentioned, but next chapter he will perform it and he'll show us. He'll tell his performance. So
Okay.
we'll get more and more information. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Yes, Praladananda Prabhu, would you like to add?
Dandavat Pranam. Here, the season is mentioned, like 2 seasons are mentioned. And the similar thing is mentioned in 2.8.5, which I put on the chat there. It says, Pravishta Karna Randrena Swana Bhav Saroram Dunoti Samalam Krishna Salilasya Yathasara. Salil, and then in the autumn season, how it gets purified. Similarly, when Krishna Katha enters the holes of your ears, it goes and cleanses. Krishna cleanses those two impurities. That's the reference I
Very
was just trying to
good.
share.
Wow. Which chapter is that, Prabhu? 2.8 is what was the context in the chapter? Was it, I don't know, Canto 2, chapter 8, no? Maybe it was the context of before the Chatushloki was spoken. Maybe Brahma. Yeah, very nice. Thank you, Prabhu, for that
Very well.
reference 2.8.5. Thank you. I'll remember that and probably add it in my notes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, so now he says, in verse number, we are in verse number 29. So this 29 to 31, we will see how the sages were bestowing the most confidential knowledge. So you all have heard this term, most confidential knowledge. It's there in Bhagavad Gita also. So we will see how it's matching so nicely with Bhagavad Gita, all that he learns. Okay, all that he's learning from the Bhakti Vedantas, it's matching with what is there in the Bhagavad Gita as well, the most confidential knowledge. So he says, this is what I learned. So text number 29. From 29 onwards, we will see that he learns. Tasyaivam me anuraktasya prashristasya hatainasa shraddadhanasya balasya dantasya anucharyasya cha. Translation.
Translation.
Anybody?
Prabhupada ki jai. I was very much attached to those sages. I was gentle in behavior, and all my sins were eradicated in their service. In my heart, I had strong faith in them. I had subjugated the senses, and I was strictly following them with body and mind. Hare Krishna.
Very nice. Prabhu, so we see some qualities of Narada Muni that he's displaying here when he was listening to the knowledge that was transmitted to him from the sages.
That's
Right?
very good, Mataji. Papu, nice, Prabhuji.
I think Divyangi is, yeah. Okay. So, so Prabhuji, does it ring a bell for you
Mataji,
in terms of majesty?
oh,
Okay, so Prabhuji, the question is, so when you read this translation, you see that he had, in his heart, he had strong faith in them. He had subjugated his senses. He was strictly following them with body and mind. Does it ring a verse from Bhagavad Gita for you about the qualities of a disciple? Or anybody can answer, doesn't matter. Anybody wants to say?
तद्विधि प्रणिपातेन परिप्रश्नेन सेवया उपदेशन्ति ते ज्ञानं ज्ञानिनस्तत्त्वदर्शिनः.
Very nice. Thank you both. Thank you both so much. Tulsi Gopi Mataji and Vimal Prabhu. Yes. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. So we see that the qualifications of a devotee is to be submissive and inquire with faith, right? Submissive and faith. This is very, very important. He should be very, very submissive. So this is what was happening in the case of Narada Muni. He had gentle behavior. He was serving them. He was doing service because he says that his sins was eradicated in their service. He had strong faith in them. Okay, he had faith in them. He was ready to listen to them. And he was ready to follow their instructions. He says, I had subjugated my senses and I was strictly following them, not just with my words or just, executing the duties that they told me with my body, with my mind, body, and words, with everything. I was following them very, very strictly. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. If you are like that, then upadekshanti te jnanam. Then the instructions given by these great souls will have some benefit on us. So we see Narada Muni, he was displaying all these different qualities. And therefore, the knowledge that was given to Narada Muni was of great value. He was able to imbibe it and he was able to practice it. So, Prabhupada says in the purport, these are the necessary qualifications for a prospective candidate who can expect to be elevated to the position of an unadulterated devotee. If we want to become an unadulterated devotee, by hearing the unadulterated pastimes of the Lord and clearing out our adulterations, then yes, we should hear attentively. But hearing attentively, continuously alone is not enough. We should have the right mood. So this is the mood that was displayed by Narada Muni. So Narada Muni, he was an unadulterated devotee because he had unadulterated faith in these sages and he was ready to serve them in a humble manner. He had his senses subjugated and he was strictly following them in every single way. Okay. So Prabhupada says these are the qualifications if you want to become an unadulterated devotee. And such a candidate who wants to become an unadulterated devotee, he should always seek the association of such pure devotees. We should go to the right person to hear. Jnaninas tattvadarshina. We should go to a tattvavit, a person who knows the absolute truth. We should not be led by pseudo devotees. There are so many so-called gurus in this world. But if we go to any so-called guru, we can easily be misled. We must go to a pure devotee. So, Prabhupada says, he himself must be plain and gentle to to receive the instructions from such a pure devotee. And who's this pure devotee? He should be a completely surrendered soul unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tad vijnanartam sa gurumeva abhigachet. Prabhupada says. And then Prabhupada asks, there are so many gurus, but where shall I go? You should go to a guru who is Brahmanishtam, who's completely fixed in Krishna consciousness, which means he should be a surrendered soul. So, such a person, he knows the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is. He knows the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of everything, and he knows everyone else are his servitors. So, like this, we should take association of such pure devotees. Then we can get rid of all our sins that we have accumulated over a period of time because of our mundane association. So like this, a neophyte devotee seeks a great devotee, unadulterated devotee, should be very obedient, ready to follow the strict instructions, imbibe it in one's life, and then he can achieve success even in this life. So this is what Prabhupada is mentioning. So we'll go to the next one, and then we'll see what knowledge he received. So this was Bimal Prabhu's question as well. So we'll see what jnanam, what knowledge he received. Jnanam guhyatamam yattat sakshat bhagavatotidam anvavochan gamishyantah kripayadina vatsala. Translation, anyone?
I'll read Mataji. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. As they were leaving, those Bhakti Vedantas, who are very kind to poor-hearted souls, instructed me in that most confidential subject, which is instructed by the personality of Godhead himself. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Vrinda Vaishnavi Mataji. So, Jnanam Guhyatamam. Guhya means confidential, right? Secret. So, Guhyatamam, the most tamam. So, there is Tara and Tamam. Tara means better. Tamam means top class, best. So, we have superlative degree. Superlative, yeah. So, Jnanam Guhyatamam. So, they gave the topmost knowledge. And why did they give the topmost knowledge to Narada Muni? Simply because they were ready to be kind towards a poor-hearted person. They are Dina Vatsala. One of Krishna's name is Dina Vatsala. That means he is very, very kind to the poor people, poor-hearted people like us. So we are all very poor-hearted. And these Bhakti Vedantas, they were very kind to poor-hearted person, and they, being very magnanimous, they gave the most confidential knowledge. How did they receive that confidential knowledge? This knowledge also they have received in Guru Parampara, because this was originally instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Okay, so it is Bhagavata Uditam. It has come directly from Bhagavan, Bhagavata Uditam. So it is coming in Parampara directly from the Lord. And what kind of subject? Guhyatamam, top class secret, the most confidential knowledge. Which chapter in Bhagavad Gita has most confidential knowledge?
Chapter 9.
9, yes, 9th chapter, the most confidential knowledge. We can see that. I think it was chapter 9 here. Here we see Sri Bhagavan Uvacha idam tu te guhyatamam pravakshyami anasuyave jnanam vijnana sahitam yat jnatva mokshayase ashubhat. The Supreme Personality of God had said, my dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me. The qualities of Narada Muni was also like that. I will impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved from the miseries of material existence. And everybody knows this. Next verse. Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyaksha Vagam Gamayam Dharmyam Susukam Kartum Avyayam. So this knowledge is the king of education, the secret of all secrets. It's the purest of all knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by self-realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and it is joyfully performed. What is that? It is devotional service that is joyfully performed. Okay, so now let's come back to Prabhupada's purport for this particular verse. So Prabhupada says, A Bhakti Vedanta is a pure Vedantist. What is Vedanta? Vedanta means the final word of the Vedas, okay, the essence of all the Vedas, which is generally seen in the Upanishads. But then what is the final say of the Upanishads? You will find it very nicely written in the Vedanta Sutras. And in the commentary to the Vedanta Sutras, once you start reading it, you will start understanding that it is nothing but devotional service, knowing Krishna to be the Supreme Lord. So a pure Vedantist or a Bhakti Vedanta, because he's very pure, because he has understood that the essence of the Vedanta is Bhakti. So he's a Bhakti Vedanta. He instructs followers exactly according to the instructions of the Lord himself. So here Prabhupada is making it clear that these Bhakti Vedantas, they were simply repeating what Krishna desired to say. The same subject matter was really relayed. And the Supreme Lord, both in the Bhagavad Gita and all the other scriptures, he has instructed men to follow only him. Krishna has very clearly said, even in the Bhagavad Gita, we can see bhakti from beginning to end. Krishna says, you just follow me, surrender unto me, and that is enough. So wherever Krishna has spoken, Krishna has given this instruction, just follow me in all respects. So the Bhakti Vedantas, they have also understood that this is the essence. They have understood that Krishna is the maintainer, annihilator, and the creator of everything. Nothing is there without Krishna in this world. The whole manifested creation is existing by his will, and when the whole show is finished, he will remain and his eternal abode with all his paraphernalia. Only Krishna is eternal. He is the cause of this universe. He is the maintainer and he is the destroyer. Everything is Krishna. So before the creation, of course, his eternal abode was there. The supreme eternal abode, which is Goloka Vrindavan, was there. And even after annihilation, it will continue to remain. Therefore, he's not one of the created beings. He's always eternal. His abode is eternal. His form is eternal. He is eternal. His name is eternal. His pastimes are eternal. Everything about Krishna is always eternal. It is transcendental. So, in the Bhagavad Gita itself, Krishna has mentioned that long before he has imparted this instruction to Arjun. Before it was imparted to Arjun, it was imparted to the sun god. You all again know this verse, right? So that Krishna had already spoken about the Bhagavad Gita to the sun god. It is not that Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita just 5,000 years ago, and before that there was no Bhagavad Gita. Krishna never spoke the Bhagavad Gita. It's not like that. Krishna has been speaking this even in the past also, but during a course of time, this instruction was lost. So he had to again instruct Arjuna. Why did he instruct specifically Arjuna? He instructed Arjuna simply because Arjuna was a perfect devotee and a non-envious friend. So he was able to instruct. So the Lord's instruction is eternal. The Lord is eternal, his abode is eternal, his instruction is eternal. And though it may appear to disappear from time to time, still Krishna again and again instructs different kinds of Bhakti Vedantists, like the sages whom we are seeing in this chapter, or like the sun god, like Arjun. Therefore, these instructions are repeated from time to time, okay? And it is carried down in a chain of disciplic succession. And who can understand such instructions? Only devotees can understand such instructions like Narada Muni. Why? Because he had the attitude of a devotee, just like how Arjuna had the right attitude. So an impersonalist who has no idea of the transcendental form of the Lord, he can never understand this Guhyatamam. He can never understand this very secretive message that Krishna is trying to say. So Prabhupada says the expression most confidential is significant because the knowledge of devotional service is far and above the impersonal Brahman. So this jnanam that people practice, it can only take them up to impersonal Brahman. And then you speak about Paramatma realization, the yogis that are going. that are practicing, they are only able to understand the Paramatma in the heart, which is not the complete understanding of the Lord. But only a devotee can understand who really Bhagavan is, who Krishna is. That is why the knowledge of Krishna is the most confidential. Confidential is Brahman knowledge. More confidential is Paramatma knowledge. Most confidential is knowledge about the personal form of Krishna. Full knowledge about Krishna is actually the most confidential knowledge, and such most confidential knowledge was imparted by Krishna to Lord Brahma, to Arjun, to Uddhava, and many others. And these Bhakti Vedantas also have received the most confidential knowledge in disciplic succession, and they were able to give it to an apt devotee like Narada Muni. In the next chapter, we'll see how Narada Muni realizes and sees this personal form of the Lord. Okay, so that will be proved in the next chapter that in fact, this is the most confidential knowledge. Realizing the personal form of the Lord is the most confidential. Okay, so we will go on to text number 31. Yenaivaham bhagavato vasudevasya vedasah maya anubhavami avidam yena gachanti tatpadam. Translation, somebody can read.
Can I read, Mataji?
Yes, please.
Translation, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. By that confidential knowledge, I could understand clearly the influence of the energy of Lord Shri Krishna, the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of everything. By knowing that, one can return to him and personally meet him.
Thank you, Prabhu. Praladanand Prabhu has also given 18.64, where Krishna says this is the most confidential knowledge of all. So, Sarva Guhyatamam Bhuyaha Shruname Paramam Vacha. This is 18.64. There also Krishna speaks about the most confidential knowledge. So that is also there. You can take note of that verse as well. And so this is the most confidential knowledge. So now by that most confidential knowledge, this translation says, Narada Muni could clearly, he says, I could understand clearly the influence of the energy of Lord Krishna, the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of everything. By knowing that, one can return to him and personally meet him. So this is very interesting because later, you remember some time back we saw how Narada tells Vyasadeva that you have to describe the Lord. You already know all this, that the Lord is the creator, he's the maintainer, he's the annihilator. You already know, just elaborate on it. Remember we saw that verse earlier. He gave an instruction to Vyasadeva in this very conversation. Let's see which verse it is. Instructs Vyasadeva. Yeah, describe the Lord's I don't know, but it is there in this chapter only, in the earlier verses. He would have told, which one is that? Huh?
Is it 20? Mataji, is it 16? Number 16 verse.
20, yeah, 20, you're right. 16, huh? 16, what are you? You are an expert. Okay, you explain. He says you're an expert, you have all these qualities, you explain, yeah. 20 is the verse that I was looking for. The Lord is himself the universe, and yet he's aloof from it. He creates, maintains, and destroys it. You know all this. I have given you only a synopsis of Bhakti and the knowledge of the Lord's power. You expand it. He just said that, right? So now here he already told that you have to, you know, the Lord is the creator, maintainer, destroyer, everything. I've just given you a synopsis, you expand it. In the later chapters, Vyasadeva will sit in meditation and he will see everything. He will see that the Lord is there, his internal energy is there, his external energy is there. The living entities are suffering in Maya, and then they are taking shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. He'll have a vision of all this. Right? Now, Narada Muni, he's not just speaking this some, free theory class or something. He also had the same experience. He says, by that confidential knowledge that was given to me by the Bhakti Vedantas, I could understand clearly the influence of the Lord's energy. Who's the creator, maintainer of everything. By knowing that, he had this experience too. That's why he tells his disciple, and his disciple also has a similar experience later. So he says, by knowing that, one can return to him and personally meet him. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, this devotional service is the most confidential knowledge. You're all searching for that Guhyatamam Jnanam. That is the devotional service. And by this devotional service, we can also understand how the different energies of the Lord are working. So we all know that the Lord has external energy, internal energy, and he has marginal energy also. So Prabhupada says one part of his energy is manifesting as the material world, the superior, para prakriti, the superior energy is actually this. Okay, here he says the superior energy is manifesting as the spiritual world. For now, he's telling this. He's saying in this, when we talk about his energies, his external energy is manifested as the material world, and a superior energy is manifested as the spiritual world. And his intermediate energy, which is the Shakti, is manifesting as the living entities. And these living entities are either serving the material energy or the spiritual energy. Okay, that means just like the shore of an ocean, the shore of the ocean is either covered by water or it becomes free of water. So like that, we are like that tatastha, we are like the shore. So we can either choose to relate with the spiritual energy, or we can choose to relate with the material energy. So we are called as intermediate energy. We are tatastha. So this living entity, what we are doing is we are stuck in this material world. Yes, we can choose to be there or here, but for now we are here. And what is happening? Prakritisthani karshati. This verse is also there in Bhagavad Gita. The living entities are struggling very hard for existence and happiness, which is presented to them as an illusion. Which one was that? Yeah, this one only. Mama ivamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manashashthani indriyani prakritisthani kashyati. So we are in this material world. We are trying to lord it over. But however, we are struggling. We are struggling in this material world. That is our condition. But those in the spiritual energy, the Dvaviva Purusha Loke, Ksharascha Evacha, 15th chapter we'll see, Purushottam Yoga. There are those who are placed in the spiritual energy. Those who are in the spiritual energy, they are akshara, they don't fall down. They are in the service of the Lord in eternal life, and they have complete knowledge and spiritual bliss. Okay, so there are two classes of people. One set is here in this material world, and we are caught up in this network of the effects of Maya in the material world, and we are bound to be in illusion. We are trying to lord over material nature. But there are other sets of people who are the Nitya Siddhas, who are placed under the direct service of the Lord. They are facing an eternal life of knowledge and perpetual bliss. This is their life. Now, the Lord says that all the conditioned souls, he doesn't like us being here. Okay, he doesn't want us to be here. He understands that we are all suffering. He wants all of us to go back to him by giving up engagements in this material world. So even in the 15th chapter also, he gives us a trailer of Bhagavad Gita. He gives us a trailer how this is there in the spiritual world. The spiritual world is not lit by sun or moon or electricity, and everything is very beautiful. He gives a short trailer. It's such a beautiful place. So please come back, come back, come back. He keeps calling us. So this is his desire. The Lord desires in the Bhagavad Gita that all the conditioned souls should give up all the engagements in this world and go back to him. And this can be understood only by the pure devotees. And such pure devotees who have understood the secret of all secrets that the Lord is presenting can only go back to the spiritual world and serve him personally. So this example of Narada Muni, it's a very good example of a person who has attained the stage of eternal knowledge and bliss, just hearing this confidential knowledge from pure devotees. So The ways and means are open to all. Bhakti is open to all. All that we have to do is we have to follow in the footsteps of Narada Muni, and we can understand that there are three energies of the Lord. There is his exterior energy, external energy, which is Prakriti. There is internal energy, which is his own internal energy that also maintains the spiritual world. And there is the Tatastha Shakti, which is the living entities. We living entities can choose to either relate here or there, but then we should be smart enough to understand this confidential knowledge that the Lord has given, following in the footsteps of Narada Muni. We should take it very seriously and realize our position, our suffering position in this material world, and try to get out of it. Okay, so Narada Muni had realized it. He had attained the stage of eternal knowledge and eternal bliss. He is a concrete example for us to follow. So for this is what even Narada could also understand, that this material world is not a place to be in. He says, I could clearly understand the influence of Krishna's energy, and I could return to him personally, to his personal association, just because of the association of such great Bhaktivedanta devotees. Okay. Next, he continues to describe in verse number 32, he continues to describe the process from 32 onwards. He continues to describe the process of how this devotional service is a very easy and a practical process. Okay, so he says, with this confidential knowledge, you can really go back to Godhead, and I was able to use it. That's what he said. Now, one may ask, okay, Narada Muni, you are a great devotee, you are a very advanced person, you were able to do all this, but what about us? We know we are in this material world. For you, very submissively, you were able to follow the footsteps of the Bhakti Vedantas, and you could practice bhakti, and you thought for you bhakti was very easy and you perfected. But for us who are struggling in this samsara, in this material world, practically, how do we apply and make this bhakti a success? It doesn't seem to be that simple like you are talking. Okay, so what do we do? What do we do so that we can also imbibe this bhakti and make it a success? It doesn't seem to be as simple as you tell us. Okay, so when this question is raised, that's when he talks about how the activities that we are doing in this material world itself, if we can dovetail it, Prabhupada always uses this word. He says, dovetail your activities in Krishna consciousness. That way you will become perfect. So the process of dovetailing, whatever activities you are doing, dovetail it and add an element of bhakti in it. That way you can also make progress. Okay, that is the recommendation that is given from verses 32 to 36. The karma that you're doing, the duties that you are doing, spiritualize it. Spiritualizing our duties, and hence taking bhakti, taking up bhakti, and then later taking bhakti to a different level. That is the process. We are in a very low level now. So first we start spiritualizing all our activities. Once we spiritualize our activities and develop more and more taste in the process, then that bhakti, like Narada Muni, will mature and it will go till the point of prema. So for that, from verses 32 to 36, he talks about the process of spiritualizing our karma, our activities. How to do bhakti practically. That is what is mentioned. एतत् समुचितं ब्रह्मस्तापत्रय चिकीर्षितं यद् ईश्वरे भगवती कर्म ब्रह्मणि भावितं. Translation, anybody?
O Brahman Vyase,
O Brahmana Vyasadeva, it is decided by the learned that best remedial measure for removing all troubles and miseries is to dedicate one's activities to the service of the Supreme Lord, or of Godhead, Sri Krishna.
Very good. Thank you so much, Sudarshan. So he tells now, Narada Muni, he tells the Brahmana Vyasadev, he tells the learner, it is decided already by the learned circles, the best remedial measure. How do we chikishitam? Chikishitam means like performing a treatment. Okay. So what is the chikishitam that you have to perform? The best chikishitam for removing the tapatraya. Tapatraya is the threefold miseries of this material world. Adi Devika, Adi Atmaka, and Adi Bhautika. So like this, we have these different tapatrayas in this world. So we are all stuck in this material world. We are not at the level of Narada Muni. We are not at the level of Vyasadev. So we are constantly attacked by tapatraya. So first and foremost thing he says, the best way, the best surgery process for removing the troubles and miseries in this life is to first start dedicating one's activities to the service of the Supreme Lord. So he says this is the decision taken by great learned scholars. They all have decided that this is the best method. So there is this Ishvara, Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's the Supreme Controller. So do all your karma, your prescribed duties just to satisfy him. Dedicate all your activities in the service of the Lord. That is how you practically begin the way of bhakti. So Prabhupada says, Sri Narada Muni, he has experienced that the most feasible and practical way to open the path to salvation or get relief from the miseries of life is to hear submissively the transcendental activities of the Lord from bona fide sources. So when we say we want to spiritualize all our activities, spiritualize our activities in the process of bhakti, we all know that if we want to start spiritualizing our activities and if we want to perform bhakti, we always begin with Shravanam. First, you hear, you spiritualize the hearing power. Okay. So you begin with the ear. That is the easiest process. Once you spiritualize your hearing, automatically everything will fall in place. So Prabhupada says this is the best remedial process because this material world, it is full of miseries. And what are we doing in this material world? We have so many problems. We have so many miseries. So we are trying to find ways to remove the miseries in our material world. And what is the method we are using? We are using another material means to remove the material problems of this world. But unfortunately, material solutions are not really solutions to material miseries. Who said this? Anybody? Any guesses? One great devotee said this in his prayers.
Prahlad Maharaj.
Yeah, Prahlad Maharaj, 100%. And here is the verse. Narahari Prabhu, would you like to read the verse?
O Great One, O Supreme Lord, because of combination of pleasing and displeasing circumstances, and because of separation from them, one is placed in a most regrettable position within heavenly or hellish planets, as if burning in a fire of lamentation. Although there are many remedies by which to get out of miserable life, any such remedies in the material world are more miserable than the miseries themselves. Therefore, I think that the only remedy is to engage in your service. Kindly instruct me in such service.
Very well. So the point here is, if at all we are seeking remedy for material miseries, the solution is not another material means. It is only to engage in Krishna's service. Why? Because the material solutions can become more miserable than the existing misery. So in my first job, I was working in the environmental industry. And there we are trying to find solutions to stop, to save the environment and stop the pollution. But 99% of the solutions are only creating more problems to the environment. So this is, you really cannot find a solution by a material means. It's simply not possible. And my Guru Maharaj used to say, if you really want to bring about a change in the world around you, you have to bring about a change within the heart of that person. That is when the change will be seen physically. outside in the environment. So when we try to find a material solution to a material problem, 99% of the time we are creating a new problem. So that's how this world works. So Prahlad Maharaj suggests just engage in devotional service. That is the best way. So Prabhupada also says that here, the entire material existence is full of miseries. Foolish people have manufactured out of their tiny brains many remedial measures for removing the threefold miseries pertaining to body and mind, pertaining to the natural disturbances and in relation with other beings, that is Adi Daivik, Adi Atmik and Adi Bhautik. The whole world is struggling very hard to exist out of the miseries, but men do not know that without the sanction of the Lord, no plan or no remedial measure can actually bring about the desired peace and tranquility. He's saying, yes, you need a spiritual solution. And here, another point Prabhupada is bringing is even to bring about a cure in a situation, you need the Lord's sanction. Okay, that is another angle that Prabhupada brings about in this purport. He says the remedial measure to cure a patient by medical treatment is useless if it is not sanctioned by the Lord. See, we all have free will. We can execute our free will to a certain extent. Okay, our capabilities are limited. To a certain extent, we can execute our activities. But the ultimate sanctioner is that Supreme Lord. Prabhupada says, to cross a river or an ocean by suitable boat is no remedial measure if it is not sanctioned by the Lord. So we may think we are banking on all fallible soldiers, right? Even I think Prahlad Maharaj also says this. One may think, the father may think that he's the maintainer of the son. The guru may think he's the instructor of the student, and so on. So everybody thinks they are actually doing the action, but actually everything is controlled by the Supreme Lord. We should know for certain that the Lord is the ultimate sanctioning officer. So we dedicate all our attempts to the mercy of the Lord. That way we get ultimate success in all our activities. So because he is the ultimate controller, he is the ultimate sanctioner, what you do is you dedicate all your activities in the service of the Lord. That way you attract the Lord's mercy and you accept his decision in whatever situation it may be. So we should therefore learn to dedicate our activities unto the mercy of the Lord and accept him, either as impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whichever way you're seeing the Lord, you should, whether you're seeing him as Brahman or Paramatma or Bhagavan, the first thing that one must do is dedicate everything in the service of the Lord. Yat karoshi, yad ashnasi, yad juhosi, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tad purushva mad arpanam. Again, Bhagavad Gita, I think it's the same chapter, 9th chapter, verse 27, 9.27. He says this, that is how Karma Mishra Bhakti. You start with Karma Mishra Bhakti. That's how you can progress to the path of pure devotional service, right? Practically think about it. Narada is giving practical ways. So whether you're a learned scholar, whether you're a scientist, whether you're a philosopher or a poet, you should engage all your talent and activities in the service of the Lord. Don't decry him. He says, Prabhupada, or don't try to become him. See, the atheist is saying Krishna is not there. He's decrying Krishna. And there is another class of atheists who are thinking they are Krishna. So don't do both, but understand that you are a fragmental portion of him, whether you're a part and parcel of him. So try to please him, just like how you feed the stomach and you water the root of a tree. So if you're an administrator or statesman or warrior, politician, whatever your situation may be, do it as a service to Krishna, just like Arjun. Arjun, he was a Kshatriya on the battlefield, but then Krishna said, Ma manusmara yudhyacha. So Arjun, he just changed his decision of giving up the fight and he fought just to please Krishna. Similarly, if you're a businessman, if you're an industrialist, what do? Whatever wealth you're accumulating, give a particular percentage of that for the cause of the Lord. That way, your money is also spiritualized, because at the end of the day, wealth is considered to be Lakshmi. And Narayan is the husband of Lakshmi. Unless Lakshmi is used in the service of Narayan, what is the use of that Lakshmi, right? So we should always use Lakshmi in the service of Narayan. So that is the best way to get relief from all the different difficulties that we have in this world. First and foremost thing, develop some attraction towards Krishna and dedicate all our activities in the service of Krishna. That way we can spiritualize our living. The word samshuchitam in the stanza is significant. Okay, so one should not think even for a moment that the realization of Narada was a childish imaginary. It was not like that. It was realized by expert erudite scholars. And that's why the word samshuchitam is mentioned here. See, he says it is decided among the learned. He didn't say that it is my thought or I have decided that the best way to remove all troubles is to dedicate your activities to the Lord. No, he says all the learned scholars have already said that. I am repeating it. Okay, I am also telling that you first start with dedicating your activities to the Lord. Okay, now you're saying that means is Narada Muni just telling us keep doing your duties, your karma itself will purify you. That's all, just add Krishna and will that bring about all purification? How is it possible? Because this karma by nature is entangling. Our activities in this material world, we say we should not get attached to the activities of this world. And now you're telling you keep doing your activities, but you add Krishna. But just by adding Krishna, will the entanglement stop? That is the question, practical question. For that, Narada Muni, he says, it works very magically. How? So here he says, Amayo yascha bhutanam jayate yena suvrata tad eva hi amayam dravyam na punati chikishitam. Translation, someone?
Hare Krishna. O good soul, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by that very same thing? Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So he says, when you this is actually quite a cryptic statement, right? He says, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by that very same thing? So Prabhupada, to make it simple, he gives the example of curing a person who has a stomach problem. So sometimes when you take a lot of milk, what happens? You have stomach issues, you have diarrhea. It happens for sensitive tummy people, right? Too much milk products, it can result in stomach upsets. But then how to cure the stomach upset? It is actually the same milk, but in a different form. What is the different form? It is buttermilk. So when it becomes yogurt and you convert it into buttermilk and you take yogurt, good bacteria, all probiotic in today's world. Yeah, you take probiotics, then your stomach problem is resolved. But where did that natural probiotic come from? It came from milk only, because curd or yogurt is a transformation of milk. Buttermilk is a transformation of milk. So that this buttermilk is a therapeutic diet. An expert physician treats his patient with a therapeutic diet. For example, milk preparations sometimes cause a disorder of the bowels. But the same milk converted into curd and mixed with some other remedial ingredients cures such disorders. We say when you are stuck by a thorn, if you're pricked by a thorn, you have to remove that thorn with another thorn. Not thorn. Another thorn means what? With another sharp substance. When a sharp substance is getting into your skin accidentally, to remove that substance, you need a needle or another sharp substance to poke and take it out, right? So both are sharp substances, but one is the cause of the problem and the other is the resolver of the cause of the problem. So like that, the cause of the problem is milk, but the solution to the cause of the problem is what? Is buttermilk. But both are the same. Thorn is also sharp, needle is also sharp, both are same. So this is how, though you are practicing karma, when you spiritualize it, it becomes bhakti. It might be the same. Maybe you're doing the same activity, but because you have brought in that element of Krishna and that activity, it becomes spiritualized and the problem has found a solution. So Prabhupada says, similarly, the threefold miseries of material existence They cannot be mitigated simply by material activities. These activities have to be spiritualized. Just like another example, very famous analogy of Srila Prabhupada. He says, an iron rod, when it hits fire, it becomes as good as fire. So similarly, when our activities are connected with Krishna, when they are spiritualized, our activities become spiritual. Because Krishna is spiritual, our activities also become spiritual. Similarly, the material conception of a thing is at once changed as soon as it is put into the service of the Lord. And that is indeed the secret of spiritual success. So we don't lord over material nature. We don't reject material things. So the impersonalist sannyasis, they'll say, neti neti, reject everything. We say, don't reject, use everything. Continue your activities. But then how's that a solution? Just like how an expert physician can treat a patient with a therapeutic substance, the cause itself can become the remedy, like in the case of milk and buttermilk. So we don't lord it over material nature, and we don't reject material things also. This world is a bad bargain, this material world. But what should we do? We should make the best use of a bad bargain and use everything in relationship with Krishna. So he can convert matter to spirit and spirit to matter. So even if we are, on a mundane platform, he can spiritualize our activities if we somehow or the other try to get connected to him. Okay, so how do we try to get connected to him? First, we start with oral reception. We hear about him. So this is how we can treat our material disease, and we can elevate ourselves to the spiritual plane. Once we elevate ourselves to a spiritual plane by getting connected with Krishna, then where is the question of lamentation or fear? Nothing. There is no question of lamentation or fear when one is Krishna consciousness. So that is what Prabhupada is telling. And Prabhupada says, when everything is thus employed in the service of the Lord, we can experience that there is nothing except Krishna. The Vedic mantra, Sarvam Khalvida Brahma, is thus realized by this. This is very sweet. There is this verse in Bhagavad Gita, I think it's in chapter 6.30. Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mayi pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami na cha mena pranashyati. So a person, he sees Krishna everywhere and he sees everything in Krishna, and he is never lost, nor is he lost in me. This is what Krishna is telling, and that is what the nature of a self-realized soul who is engaging in Krishna consciousness becomes. That's how he becomes. He sees everything as being used in the service of the Lord, everything around him. He sees everything has scope to be used in the service of the Lord, and he can experience Krishna in everything. Sarvam Khalvida Brahma. The Vedic mantra that everything is Brahma is realized like that by him. He doesn't see that everything is Brahman. That is, everything is equal to Krishna. He doesn't see like that, like an impersonalist. An impersonalist is saying that this bag, this phone, this laptop, this book, everything is Brahman. We don't see, a personalist doesn't see like that. A personalist is able to see everything in relation with Krishna. He's saying, oh, everything has Krishna's potency, power. Everything can be used in Krishna's service. So that is the real understanding of a devotee. Okay, Bimal Prabhu, please ask your question.
Mataji, one question I had is, can you go up, go, come down. Miss, I want to read the statement here. The statement says, right, best way is the best bargain statement. Can you highlight? No, little bit down. The best. So does it mean we're talking about Yukta Vairagya, Mataji here?
Why not? Yes. The best way to make the best use of a bad bargain is to use everything in relationship with the Supreme Being. Yes, why not?
Everything is emanation of the Supreme Spirit, and by accident you can convert.
Yeah, we can use everything in the service of the Lord. Yes.
Therefore, a material thing so-called is at once. So material thing also we are putting. So basically everything we can put in service of the Lord. Yukta Vairagya only, right?
Yes. You are not attached to it, but you're trying to use it in the service of Krishna. That is Yukta Vairagya. Vairagya should be there. It's not like I'm attached to it, so I'm going to say that I'm using this in the service of Krishna. Vairagya should be there. Tomorrow, if I don't have it, I should not be crying. Then it is Yukta Vairagya. Okay.
So here it is not Yukta Vairagya?
No, it's all a state of consciousness, Prabhu. Here also, we can make it sound like Yukta Vairagya. We can come to that platform. Initially, we may not be, but eventually we can. Okay. That is the principle of this process. Initially, we still have attachments. Eventually, we lose the attachments. Okay. Prahladananda Prabhu.
Yeah, they're not Pranimata. That's right, Yukta Vairagya is defined in Bhakti Rasamrita. Anasaktasya Visayan Yathartham Punyade. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandha Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. So Prabhupada Maharaj also gives in elsewhere another example that if you are walking and you find that some $100 bill or $20 bill, okay, someone who is passing there, he sees that, this doesn't belong to me, I shouldn't need to charge. So he's doing tyaga. He's doing tyaga. Another one is, nobody is looking, let me put it in my pocket. This is bhog.
Yeah.
Right? But the bhakta will come, he'll pick it up, find it out, and he'll find out and return it to it. This actually happened to me. I found I found $10 bill. I said, what should I do with this? I cannot find out the owner like that. So what I did was to buy some fruits and then took it to the temple and offer to Lord Sri Krishna.
Hari Bol. Hari Bol. It's the
Because
best
he's
use of
the
money.
ultimate exchequer for all the money, Sarva Lok Maheswaram says Suradam Sarvabhutan. So that's how we can apply little our incidences in our life to, Sri Prabhupada's teachings like that. Hari Bol Mata.
Hare Krishna. Such a beautiful practical application. Thank you so much, Ram. I really like that. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. So we'll do 34, 35, 36, and then I'll stop. I want to finish this section. Okay, 34. एवं नृणां क्रिया योग सर्वे संस्कृति हेतवा तयैवात्मविनाशाय कल्पन्ते कल्पिता परे. Translation, someone?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thus, when all men's activities are dedicated to the service of the Lord, those very activities which caused his perpetual bondage become the destroyer of the tree of work.
So whatever is causing that bondage itself, that becomes the destroyer of that bondage. Same principle, what he said in the previous verse, exactly same thing. But here he gives the analogy of tree of work. So if you can imagine that there is a tree of work, but a man who's continuing to do all the activities in the tree of work, but dedicating those activities in the service of the Lord, then the tree of work is destroyed naturally as he's acting. That is what this verse is telling. Same thing, same principle with another analogy. Now, the minute you hear tree of work, again he goes back to Bhagavad Gita Prabhupada. What is that verse you all remember? 15th chapter.
Urdhva Moola Adasha.
Urdhva Moolam, yes. Urdhva Moolam Adashakam. 15th chapter. Actually, he quotes so many. If you just read his purport, you will see that a lot of verses from 15th chapter, 9th chapter are continuously quoted in this 6-7 purports. He just, in English itself, he's just rephrasing and writing over and over. So here is our verse. Urdhva Moolam Adashakam Ashvatam Prahurabhyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Vedasa Vedavid. The Supreme Personality of God had said, it is said there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upwards and branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. So pretty much it is talking about the material world. So fruitive work, which has perpetually engaged the living being, is compared to a banyan tree. The fruitive work that we are doing here is like a big, big, complicated banyan tree. You all have seen banyan trees. They are like so complex, you don't know where the root is, where the branch is. It's huge. So that is how our fruitive work in this material world is. And it is very deep-rooted, and we have a propensity to enjoy the fruit of work. And because we have the propensity to enjoy the fruits, actually we are transmigrating from one place to the other. You read the 15th chapter, first verse purport is the same thing, okay? Similar thing, not same, similar. So because we have the propensity of enjoyment to eat those fruits, we are transmigrating from one body to the other, from one planet to the other, according to the work that we are doing. But this propensity for enjoyment must be slightly transformed. How do you transform it? You transform that desire to serve the mission of the Lord. So once you transform it by using it to serve the mission of the Lord, that activity itself is automatically transformed. Okay, so we can working as a natural tendency. But you do that work, but you dovetail it in the service of the Lord. So once you start dovetailing it in the service of the Lord, then you do not generate further karma, and you develop transcendental devotional service, which can cut off the root of this banyan tree, and it will also take the performer to the lotus feet of the Lord. So to do all this, what should we do? First and foremost thing, we seek the association of pure devotees, like the Bhakti Vedantas, like how Narada Muni got the association of the pure devotees, and serve them. We already saw Narada. He said, I first served them. So you serve them, loving devotional service, physically, mentally, without reservation. Tadvidhi pranipatena. Serve them very, very nicely. Then what happens? We start getting attachment to the transcendental activities of the Lord, and we start developing our eternal relationship with the Lord. And because of that, there's a nice relationship that is ascertained between the Lord and the devotee, and he understands Krishna as he is, and he goes back to Godhead. So pretty much this is what happens. Prabhupada, again, he has a few things to say here. He says, after the relationship is ascertained by establishment of the eternal relationship, pure devotional service to the Lord begins gradually developing into perfect knowledge of the Supreme Lord beyond the knowledge of his Brahman feature or Paramatma feature. So that is Purushottam Yoga. Again, he mentions chapter 15, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita. A man is made perfect, and gradually he understands Krishna. And how did all that begin? It began with association of pure devotees. So associate with pure devotees, be submissive, be patient, hear from them, let the heart get washed out of rajas and tamas, and you have fixed, firm faith and attachment to the pastimes of the Lord. Then you can understand the Lord as he is in his complete form, and you can go back to Godhead. So it all begins with Karma Mishra Bhakti. Technically, that's what we are all doing now also. So there is a lot of Mishra. I mean, I don't know if many of you could be doing pure devotional service, but that is, but in our conditioned state, it's kind of little difficult to have it consistently going. Yes, Tulsi Gopi Mataji.
Mataji, what does a corporeal existence mean? Like material existence? What is this?
Bodily existence, body.
Body. Corpse. Acha, it's coming from the word corpse. Like the, okay.
Yes, yes, Mataji.
Okay, thank you.
35, 36, I'll stop. Yadatra kriyate karma bhagavat paritoshanam jnanam yattad adhinam hi bhakti yoga samanvitam. Translation, someone?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga or transcendental loving service to the Lord. And what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor.
So you're doing work, that's what we're talking now, right? You're doing work, you're trying to spiritualize it. So whatever work that you're doing in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord, we just saw that we don't do it for ourselves, we do it for the mission of the Lord. If you're doing work for the mission of the Lord, automatically it's called as Bhakti Yoga. And then one will ask, you said, Guhya Tamam Jnanam. What is that Jnanam? So am I not developing Jnanam? I'll get only bhakti or what? I mean, like what bhakti, where did that jnanam go? So here he's telling that bhakti that you have developed, that is enough, because this jnana is only a concomitant factor. That means it is only a byproduct. It will just come. You don't have to worry about it. That jnanam automatically comes. So here Prabhupada, he clarifies further. He says, the general and popular notion is that by discharging fruitive work in terms of the direction of the scriptures, One gets transcendental knowledge for spiritual realization. One is expecting jnanam for spiritual realization. And some people, they think bhakti yoga is some form of karma. Spiritual realization means you should get jnanam. If you're doing bhakti, it is some activity, some karma. That's how some people are thinking. But Narada is clarifying here. He's telling this bhakti is about karma and jnana, and this jnana is just a byproduct. It is dependent on bhakti. So why are you endeavoring so much for jnana? Oh, I should get jnanam, I should get spiritual realizations. How you will get spiritual realizations? If you have bhakti, automatically spiritual realizations will come. You don't have to endeavor for it separately. It's only a byproduct. So karma yoga with adding bhakti is the way to satisfy the Lord. See, the Lord, very nice. He's a good Lord. Okay, he's a good boy. He says the Lord does not want his sons, the living beings, to suffer this tapatraya, these threefold miseries of life. He wants everybody to go back to him. That's what he expresses even in the 15th chapter. He says, you come back to me. Why are you suffering in this material world? So then what should we do? We should perform work that will satisfy the Lord and we should become pure. Then automatically realization, spiritual realization, transcendental knowledge, all this will come as a byproduct. Okay. But without this bhakti yoga or satisfaction of the Lord, we cannot go back to Godhead and we cannot have any sort of salvation, any sort of relief from material miseries. You want relief from material miseries, the Lord also wants you to get relief from material miseries. But if we are simply going to say, I want jnanam, jnanam, it won't work. Do bhakti and jnanam will automatically come. Naishkarimyam api achyuta bhava varchitam. So a devotee engaged in unalloyed devotional service, specifically hearing and chanting, simultaneously becomes spiritually enlightened, and this is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. So the point is, just start with chanting and hearing, spiritualize your activities, and automatically all this transcendental knowledge is going to be revealed as a byproduct. That's the best way. So to finish off this section, finally he says, Kurvana yatra karmani bhagavad chikishaya shakrit grinanti gunanamani krishnasyanusmaranti cha. Translation, someone?
While performing duties according to the order of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one constantly remembers him. One constantly remembers him, his names, and his qualities.
Very nice. So like this, though you're starting with karma, you're adding Krishna as you're performing your duties. What is happening? You're developing full-fledged bhakti. So as you're performing your duties, as per the order of Krishna, as handed down by the Bhakti Vedantas, so you're constantly remembering Krishna, his name and his qualities, and that is only the pure devotional service that we're talking about. Right? So Prabhupada says, an expert devotee of the Lord, he can mold his life in this life and in the next just by hearing and chanting. You have to constantly remember the Lord's name, fame, and activities. So the Lord is the ultimate proprietor of everything that exists. We worship only the Supreme Lord. And sometimes in certain Vedic rites, you might see that there is some worship of demigods like Indra, Brahma, Saraswati, Ganesh, and so on. But even under such circumstances, we understand that the ultimate enjoyer and proprietor is Vishnu. Vishnu is called as Yajna. He is the actual receiver of Yajna. Bhuktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarvabhutanam Yatva Mam Shantim Richati. He is the actual enjoyer of all the sacrifices. That's why even if you're worshipping a particular demigod in a particular Yajna, you start with an invocation to Vishnu and finally you say, Sarvam Krishna Arpanamastu. Everything is towards pleasing Krishna. Keshavan Pratigachati. Like that, there are so many phrases that is used. It begins with Shuklam Baradaram Vishnu. The entire yajna begins with the invocation to Vishnu. And it ends with Krishna Arpanam. So like this, any yajna, whether you do it for a demigod or whoever it may be, ultimately one should understand that Krishna is the proprietor and he's the enjoyer of everything. So when we understand that when we're doing these yajnas, even towards demigods, Krishna is the ultimate enjoyer. Similarly, even in our ordinary dealings also, all the activities we do, like eating also, yad karoshi yadashnasi, even there also you understand that it should be given to the supreme enjoyer. That's why Prabhupada has introduced such a beautiful system. Even the morning, from morning to evening, all the activities we do, we are trying to dedicate it in the service of the Lord. All our actions, our earnings, the food we eat, the little, happiness that we get, everything, we do it as a service to Krishna, whatever we're doing in this world. So none other than Krishna, no one else other than Krishna should claim to be the proprietor of anything within the creation. So a pure devotee will remember this constantly, and he will be engaged in chanting the name, describing the fame and qualities of the Lord, and so on. Because the name, fame, qualities, transcendental pastimes, they are all non-different from the Lord. So anything to do with the Lord is a way to associate with the Lord. And Prabhupada gives many practical examples. He says, when you're getting some salary, try to give. Prabhupada says not less than 50%. I was hearing a class where one Prabhuji, he was telling how to read through the lines of what Prabhupada has written. He was telling 50% means at least after satisfying all your needs and keeping enough savings, whatever balance 50% is there, at least that you give to Krishna. So we should try to give whatever, if you're a businessman, try to give your profit of earning to Krishna. So like that, whatever activities we are doing, somehow or the other, we try to engage that in the service of Krishna. And he says Lord Chaitanya taught a very simple method in this connection. He has taught that the lesson of preaching the transcendental message through singing, dancing, and refreshment. Eat, chant, and dance. This is what our motto is, right? We go to the temple to sing, to dance, and to eat prasadam. So just by doing that, we can perfect our life. And try to give whatever salary you're earning, some donation for the Lord's purpose. So in this fallen age of Kali, it is very difficult to convince everybody to give away all their accumulated wealth, but definitely at least a portion of it, if we are able to give it in the service of the Lord, then our life will become successful. And Prabhupada says, invite everyone just to take part in singing, dancing, and refreshment. If you tell them there is prasadam, who will not come? Everyone will want to attend such enjoying functions, right? Where they are simply chanting and dancing. So like this, when you invite them for such functions, there is spiritual purification that kicks in. So eventually these people, they get purified. So Prabhupada says we have to simply accept them in a tutu and abide by the orders of the Lord. That will guide us in the path of perfection. He says, it is already spoken by the Lord himself in the Bhagavad Gita, especially in all other Vedic literatures generally. We have to simply accept them in tutu and abide by the order of the Lord. That will guide us to the path of perfection. Just listen to the Bhagavad Gita, the instructions given by the Lord. Be a nice devotee by dedicating all your activities in the service of the Lord. And if this is our only occupation, then we can perfect our lives. So basically, we receive the orders of the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam from the lips of a bona fide devotee. That way, we can make our lives successful. So I'm going to stop here. 37 to 40, 37, 38, 39, 40, 4 verses. That is the end of this chapter. Narada Muni will teach his personal mantra to Vyasadeva. It's a very small section, easy to cover section. Mataji will cover that on Tuesday. All of you will be back from Sadhu Sangha. Then you can get the Sadhu Sangha. That was the entire theme of this section, taking Sadhu Sangha. So go take Sadhu Sangha, come back, and then we'll finish this chapter, and hopefully she will give an overview of chapter 6. And on Thursday, we can head into chapter 6. And here, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyascha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. Any other questions? Everybody, it's time to sleep for everybody. Vanchakल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. अनंतकोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Right now,
Okay.
Mari is smiling.